He had 11.8 million subscribers, 2.5 billion total views, a licensed veterinary practice, a clothing company worth millions, and a 350-acre Texas resort. And then one day, he posted a video, listed the ranch for sale, and walked away from all of it. His name is Matt Carriker, and for 14 years, he was the biggest gun channel on YouTube. By the end of this story, you'll understand why the most surprising thing he ever did had nothing to do with firearms. There's a town in the Texas Hill Country called Boerne, pronounced Bernie, about 30 miles northwest of San Antonio. It's not the kind of place that produces YouTube legends. It's the kind of place where your dad is a veterinarian, your grandfather probably knew the neighbors, and the idea of becoming internet famous while still a college student would have sounded absurd to most people in 1986, the year Matt Carriker was born. Matt's father, Dr. Lee Carriker, ran a veterinary practice in the area. That proximity to the job, watching his dad work, understanding what it meant to care for animals in a clinical, serious way, shaped Matt early. He followed his father into the profession, enrolled at Texas A&M's College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, and was on track for a life that looked exactly like his father's. He also loved guns. Not in a volatile way, in the way a lot of Texas kids grow up understanding firearms as tools, as sport, as part of the landscape. He was competent, curious, and liked testing things. What would happen if you shot this? What would happen if you tried that? These are not typically questions that lead to a medical degree, but Matt somehow managed both tracks at once. In 2011, while he was still a veterinary student, still mid-degree, still years away from his license, he uploaded his first video to a new YouTube channel. The channel was called Demolition Ranch. The video was titled Spaz 12 vs. Computer Monitor. He had no monetization plan. He had no audience. He just wanted to film himself shooting things and see if anyone watched. More people watched than he expected. And that's when the decision was made, the one nobody around him saw coming. Here's something that gets left out of most Demolition Ranch origin stories. Matt nearly didn't graduate. The channel took off faster than he anticipated during his time at Texas A&M. More uploads, more subscribers, more time in front of a camera and behind a gun instead of inside a textbook. By the time he hit his final year of veterinary school, the pull between the two worlds had gotten serious enough that his academics suffered. He made a decision most aspiring YouTubers would never make. He stopped filming, closed the channel temporarily, and focused entirely on finishing his degree. In 2012, he graduated. Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Texas A&M, College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. He got his license. He went back to work at his father's clinic, Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary, and then he reopened Demolition Ranch. What followed over the next few years was not a slow burn. It was a steady escalation. Golf ball cannons, double-barreled AR-15 builds, microwaving a live grenade, shooting an armored car door, shooting a truck with an actual tank. These were not the kinds of experiments that got veterinary clinics on the evening news, but they were exactly the kind of content that rewired how millions of Americans consumed gun culture online. By the mid-2010s, Demolition Ranch had defined a genre. GunTube, as the firearms content community on YouTube came to be known, existed before Matt, but he became its dominant figure. The mix of disarming humor, genuine technical knowledge, and the sheer audacity of the experiments created something that no competitor quite replicated. He wasn't tactical. He wasn't political. He was just a vet from Texas who found joy in shooting things in creative ways, and that simplicity turned out to be exactly what 11 million people were looking for. Most people who know this story stop here, but the real story starts right now. The channel was never just a channel. While Demolition Ranch was growing into one of YouTube's most viewed firearms properties, Matt was also building a parallel universe of businesses, and the scope of what he constructed over the following decade is something most casual viewers never fully grasped. In February 2014, he launched Vet Ranch. The concept was straightforward. Use the ad revenue from a YouTube channel to pay for surgeries on animals pulled from high-kill shelters. Matt partnered with San Antonio Pets Alive, known as SAPA, and the channel followed animals from intake through recovery to adoption. His fellow Texas A&M graduate, Dr. Carrie McCreary, joined the operation. Vet Ranch grew to nearly 2 million subscribers and became one of the most emotionally compelling channels in the veterinary content space. The money it generated actually went to the animals. That wasn't a marketing line, it was the operating model. He also built Bunker Branding, a merchandise and screen printing company that started as a way to sell Demolition Ranch branded apparel and grew into a full operation producing gear for other YouTubers and businesses across the country. The Demolitia, Matt's portmanteau for his fan base, blending demolition and militia, became a genuine brand community. And then there was the Desperado Resort, a 350-acre property in Bourne, Texas, that Matt developed and operated as a resort business. Not a side project, an actual hospitality operation on land that would later be listed for $15 million. He also published a novel, The Subversion Threat, in 2019. He appeared in a film, Strain 100, in 2020. He competed in the Mint 400 off-road race and worked on crews at the Baja 1000. By any measure, this was not a man running one YouTube channel. This was someone building an enterprise in multiple directions simultaneously. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me because this next part is why the whole story matters. March 2020. Matt Carriker's brother Mark died of cancer. That fact lives in almost every biography of Matt Carriker and gets 3 sentences before the article moves on. But grief doesn't work on a content schedule. Losing a sibling, the person who knew you before the subscribers, before the channel, before the empire, reshapes how you see time. It has a way of making 14-hour editing sessions feel optional, and Tuesday afternoons with your kids feel irreplaceable. Matt didn't say publicly that Mark's death changed his relationship with YouTube. He didn't need to. The pattern that followed, a gradual shift in content tone, an increasing presence of family on Off the Ranch, the construction of the Desperado Resort as something that could exist in the real world rather than just on a screen, tells a story he never had to narrate. His 3 children, Addie, Annie, and Lincoln, appeared more frequently. His wife Meredith, who ran her own social media presence and fashion brand The Link, became a more visible part of the family story Matt was telling online. The channel wasn't just guns and laughs anymore. It was a man in his mid-30s figuring out what the second half of his life was supposed to look like. Then came 2024, and 2024 handed Matt Carriker 3 problems at the same time. The number that came next, nobody who followed this channel expected it. The first problem arrived in June 2024. YouTube updated its firearms content policies, placing age restrictions on videos that featured military-grade weapons. For a channel built entirely around testing and demonstrating the capabilities of high-powered firearms, this was not a minor adjustment. Age-restricted content receives significantly fewer impressions. It doesn't surface in recommended feeds the same way. It doesn't reach new audiences. Matt said directly, on camera, that being restricted to viewers 18 and older affects us big time. A channel that had operated for 13 years on the premise of open access suddenly found itself gated. The second problem arrived in July 2024. A man named Thomas Matthew Crooks attempted to assassinate President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. In the images and video that circulated immediately after, the images that went around the world, the gunman was wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. The shirt had been purchased through bunker branding. There was no connection between Carriker and Crooks beyond a retail transaction. But that didn't matter to the internet in the hours after the shooting. Matt posted a video titled, "The Trump Shooter Was Wearing My Shirt," in which he stated directly, he bought a shirt online and unfortunately wore it that day. He condemned the attack. He expressed disbelief. It was the kind of media moment that has no good outcome. If you say nothing, you're complicit. If you say something, you feed the cycle. Matt said something, tried to separate the brand from the act, and then had to watch the conversation continue without him for weeks. Bunker Branding discontinued one hat it had produced under a related creator's brand. The Demolition Ranch t-shirt itself remained for sale. The third problem was quieter. It had nothing to do with YouTube's algorithm or a national news cycle. It was a conversation between Matt and his wife Meredith. Their kids were getting older. The years that a child is actually in the house, present, wanting your attention, able to be reached, are finite. Matt said as much in his retirement announcement. He and Meredith had realized, as he put it, that the children weren't going to be home forever, and that when they were gone, he was not going to look back and wish he had made more videos. Here's what the comments kept asking, and here's the answer they never got, until now. On January 28, 2025, Matt Carriker posted a video titled, "I'm Selling the Ranch." It wasn't titled, "I'm Retiring" or "Goodbye." It was selling the ranch, the physical property, the thing that had been in the background of hundreds of videos, the land that defined the visual identity of the channel. That detail mattered. He wasn't just stepping away from a camera. He was liquidating the stage, the Desperado Resort, the The 350-acre property he had built into an actual hospitality business went on the market at $15 million. The assets accumulated over a decade of content creation were being converted into something finite and tangible. Whatever came next for Matt Carriker, it was not going to involve maintaining an entertainment infrastructure. The response from the Demolition, his 11 million subscribers, was exactly what you'd expect from a community that had grown up alongside a creator over 14 years. Some people handled it the way fans handle a band breaking up. Some reacted with respect. Some were processing the loss of something they'd never quite acknowledged they depended on. The final Demolition Ranch video, titled "Thank You for Everything," dropped a few months after the announcement. In true channel fashion, it featured tanks, grenades, longtime friends, and over-the-top experiments. It was celebratory, it was loud, and in a quiet moment between tests, Matt admitted, "It's weird, this is the last time." His off-the-ranch farewell, titled "The End," was the opposite. He sat on his property as rain fell around him and reflected on 18 years of YouTube, his early fears of not being good enough, his genuine surprise at how viewers responded to his normalcy, and his belief that there was room for someone new to eventually pass up Demolition Ranch on the charts. "Just start," he told anyone listening. At this point in the story, most people walked away. What he did instead is the part nobody talks about. Demolition Ranch is archived. Off the Ranch is archived. The physical ranch is listed for sale. What isn't gone is Vet Ranch, the nonprofit veterinary channel, the one that uses ad revenue to fund surgeries for animals from high-kill shelters, the one that operates in partnership with San Antonio Pets Alive, the one that Matt built as a way to make the profession his father practiced mean something on a platform that rewards spectacle. That channel continues. It has nearly 2 million subscribers. It has treated hundreds of animals who had no other pathway to survival. The surgeries it funds happen because people watch videos of those surgeries and generate revenue, and that revenue goes directly back into the operating room. There are no grenades on Vet Ranch. There are no tank tests. There is just Dr. Matt Carriker, veterinarian, doing the job his father taught him in a Texas town that most people have never heard of. Matt Carriker also returned, quietly, without fanfare, to practicing veterinary medicine at Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary Clinic. The clinic his father built, the clinic he took over, the profession he almost abandoned for YouTube, then almost abandoned YouTube for, then ultimately chose above the platform that made him famous. He is not entirely absent from public life. His Instagram account remains active. He still has an audience, but the frantic pace of a 14-year content operation, the expectation that something new would arrive every few days, that experiments would escalate, that the demolition needed feeding, that pressure is gone. One phone call, one conversation. That's all it took to change the direction of everything. There is a particular kind of person who builds something massive from nothing and then chooses to walk away at the height of it. Most people never reach the height. A smaller number reach it and can't leave. Matt Carriker belongs to a rarer category. The ones who look at what they've built, recognize that it has served its purpose, and choose something that can't be subscribed to. He started Demolition Ranch as a hobby, a student with a camera and a Spaz 12 and a spare afternoon. He ended it as the creator of a media company that employed people, funded animal surgeries, built a resort, and clothed a community of millions. That arc, from bored vet student to multi-platform creator to deliberate retiree, is not the story most people expected from the channel whose entire identity was built around destroying things. The irony is clean. The man who built an empire out of demolition turned out to be incapable of demolishing the one thing that mattered. His family had more staying power than any of the content he ever produced. And when he had to choose between the two, he didn't hesitate long enough for it to become a crisis. Vet Ranch is still saving animals. The kids are still home. The guns are quiet. Whether that's the right ending depends entirely on what you think this story was about in the first place. Do you think Matt made the right call walking away from Demolition Ranch at the top? Or did he leave too much on the table? Drop your answer below, because this one genuinely splits the room. There is a particular kind of person who builds something massive from nothing and then chooses to walk away at the height of it. Most people never reach the height. A smaller number reach it and can't leave. Matt Carriker belongs to a rarer category. The ones who look at what they've built, recognize that it has served its purpose, and choose something that can't be subscribed to. He started Demolition Ranch as a hobby, a student with a camera and a Spaz 12 and a spare afternoon. He ended it as the creator of a media company that employed people, funded animal surgeries, built a resort, and clothed a community of millions. That arc, from bored vet student to multi-platform creator to deliberate retiree, is not the story most people expected from the channel, whose entire identity was built around destroying things. The irony is clean. The man who built an empire out of demolition turned out to be incapable of demolishing the one thing that mattered. His family had more staying power than any of the content he ever produced. And when he had to choose between the two, he didn't hesitate long enough for it to become a crisis. Vet Ranch is still saving animals. The kids are still home. The guns are quiet. Whether that's the right ending depends entirely on what you think this story was about in the first place. Do you think Matt made the right call walking away from Demolition Ranch at the top, or did he leave too much on the table? Drop your answer below, because this one genuinely splits the room.